Hello and welcome to Unit 9. We'll be talking about new media today. And just as a little overview, we're talking about public communication campaigns, steps for strategic planning, and psychological reactance theory. And we'll get into section 2. This is section 1 of 2. And entertainment education. So just thinking about the following questions. Do you ever get told what to do by your parents, teachers, or coaches that limit your freedom to choose? And examples of this could be like clean your room, run laps, turn this in by 11:59 p.m. or whatever. And then think about, do you think negative thoughts and feel anger when you feel as though your freedom to choose is limited? So just thinking about that a second with the people who have authority in your life, maybe using the examples previously mentioned. And then lastly, do you ever feel as though you want to do the exact opposite of what your parents, teachers, or coaches tell you to do? And this is like defying their authority in a sense. So we'll be talking about the actual terms that we use for these feelings that we have when someone tells us to do something and then we have a negative reaction to that. But first, public communication campaigns are purposive attempts, to influence behaviors. So, and this includes, or this must be in a large audience. So public campaigns exist in large audiences within a specific time period, and through an organized set of messages in multiple channels. So thinking about campaigns, we see a lot of health campaigns, but I don't want you to think it only has to be health campaigns. It can also be political campaigns or public service announcements or things like that. So, but all of these campaigns are basically designed to go through mass media to the masses. So it's very one way, and it's through multiple channels, and it has a time period. So here are just some examples. You can see a lot of these are public health campaigns, but they are public communication campaigns as well. So these are smoking health campaigns, and you'll see this a lot in TV too. They'll have a tip from a former smoker, or I wish I would have known this, or things like that. And these are really, the goal here is to get people to stop smoking, right? By giving the narrative or their story about what they wish they knew. And here are the basic steps for strategic planning. One is defining the problem. So if you think about our public health campaign for not smoking, the problem is that people still smoke, even though we know it's bad, which goes back to that cognitive dissonance theory that we talked about earlier. So we have to define the problem before we can start planning, or that's the first step of the strategic planning process. And then we set objectives. And objectives are measurable and time-bound. And we have what's called SMART objectives, which we'll get into in a moment. So yeah, objectives are similar to goals, but not quite goals. Objectives are more specific than goals and more focused and narrow than goals. So we set objectives, that's step 2. And then 3, we analyze and segment audience. So analyzing our audience is super important. If you've ever taken a COM 104 class, you should know that already. As we went into audience analysis extensively in that course. But yeah, who is our audience? Is our audience family member? If we go back to the smoking example and the smoking campaigns, is the audience family members of people who smoke, or is the audience made up of smokers, or who specifically is the audience, and how can we get to each segment of this audience? And maybe your message to a current smoker is different than your message to a family member of a smoker, right? Step 4, we develop and pretest message concepts. So we have to, after we analyze our audience, we're like, okay, what do we need to say? If we're speaking to the family of a smoker, what is the most persuasive message to deliver to that person? And then we pre-test message concepts. So we can do this through focus groups. Pre-testing just means that you're like kind of surveying how people think this would do on a broader level, or you're making sure like the logistics of how you're implementing this campaign, like how it works best to receive that information back. So we have to develop and pre-test message concepts. Then number 5 is select communication channels. So do we want to choose public radio for PSA, or do we want to choose commercials on mass media outlets, or do we want to choose newspapers? Do we want print ads? What are we using for the communication channel? And then number 6 is select, create, and pre-test messages. So after we've already done the pre-test of message concepts, chosen the channels, then we're actually going to select the best messages from that first pre-test, create, and then pre-test messages to, again, you can do like a focus group, you can do like a smaller sample and see what happens, see how those people react to your messages. And then number 7 is develop a promotion plan. So I always like to kind of think about how we promote ourselves on social media in terms, we're not doing campaigns for ourselves for our own social media accounts, but that's kind of how you can think about this. And it's not just social media. It's like you want to promote this message to as many people as you can. So you create a plan to do so. And then implement communication strategies and conduct process evaluation. And evaluation and assessment, like that's always toward the end. Like you implement your plan to fulfill your objectives or to meet your objectives, but then to make sure it worked, you have to evaluate the actual campaign. So, and then conduct outcome and impact evaluation. So those two are very similar, and I think those two should be combined. I think your book has it like this. So yeah, conduct outcome and impact evaluation. Again, evaluation is always at the end of your campaign. You want to make sure you know how you did. And here, we're not going to play these videos, but we think about COVID-19 a lot when we talk about relevant and current public health campaigns. So these messages are coming from different individuals, probably directed at different target audiences, and they're all probably trying to reach the same goal, but probably have different objectives they're trying to reach to meet that major overarching goal. So even though there are a lot of theories about why these public communication campaigns succeed, we want to talk about today why they fail. And we'll get into psychological reactance theory next. However, I'm going to pause this video and come back in a moment to go over that. So.